We have a brand new Jeremy Swayman update, and the way this is playing out, I am getting tired of hearing this. We have a report from Elliotte Friedman and many other reporters discussing some recent contracts that he had not agreed to, as well as some other situations regarding term and cap. So we're going to be talking about all of that here in this video, as well as the current situation the Bruins are in at this very moment of recording this video with their goalies and what could happen at the beginning of the season regarding this. I'm going to get into all of this brand new news that we have here today. Before we do, though, we know 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to still get all your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join me here on the channel as we cover everything Boston Bruins related, and I'll keep you guys up to date with everything that this team has to offer, including the long-awaited Jeremy Swayman update, which we're still all waiting for in that contract. But without any further ado, let's get into our first topic here, which is, of course, the Jeremy Swayman contract, and we have some new, pretty big details to touch on here. So we're going to start this one off with Elliotte Friedman discussing what he had to say on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, some stuff that he's been hearing, some stuff that he's been seeing over the past few days and weeks since our last real big update to this size, and we're going to start off with this one here. Bruins and Swayman have been negotiating all offseason with either side willing to budge on what they feel is the right deal. And according to Elliotte Friedman on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, the Bruins had a long-term deal on the table, but Swayman never signed on the dotted line. So with conflicting reports and everything, now we know that a contract was offered. From what we're seeing from this, though, that contract that Elliotte is talking about here was something along the lines of $6 million. And we knew from the get-go that they were not going to be giving Swayman $6 million, or at least he would not be accepting $6 million. Even if Linus Ullmark was still on this team, that Swayman would not be getting $6 million from the player standpoint. We know that if Swayman could get signed for $6 million, an absolute steal that would be, but we know Swayman was not going to be doing that. He's discussed publicly, his agent has discussed publicly, the kind of contract he's looking for. He's looking for that higher contract, that starting goalie level, and there still is concern from the Bruins that he isn't that guy yet. Not saying he won't be, but there is still concern from the team, but they have to have some optimism now at this point that he can and he will. He showed last year that he can really shine in the spotlight under an immense amount of pressure, quite a few game stretch, and the playoffs was a great example of that, and having that come out and say that he's declined that, there has to be a price issue with that. But continuing on to it, we do have another bit here of a contract that was proposed, reportedly, and this comes from Ryan Whitney, but also Elliotte Friedman on 32 That's the Podcast. So Ryan Whitney was saying this week that he heard the Bruins' offer to Swayman was 4 years by $6.2 million. Nobody has disputed that to me, so I think he's right. I know there was a report that Swayman wanted $10 million. I also heard that a McAvoy contract was the ask. For those who don't know, that was 8 years, 9.5, which is 9.5, as you can see there, but 8 years to go along with that. And that's one that we really been thinking we would see from Swayman, right? You know, we haven't really been expecting anything that was reported right there, 4 by 6.2, excuse me. That really wasn't the thought process that we were going by. That's not the thought process that I think the Bruins were looking for. That may have kind of seemed like a Hail Mary to me, at least, on that contract. But I do think that we're going to see something 8 years, but with that McAvoy contract, that's what we're going to be talking about here now as well. But I really do think that 4 years by 6.2 or the $6 million contract by 8 years was an absolutely ridiculous ask, knowing that he's going to be your starting goalie, and especially if that was for 8 years. That really, to me, makes zero sense. But let's move on to our next little screenshot here. Quote from Elliotte Friedman. Says, I do believe at some point there was an 8-year deal on the table, as he said, but but it was in the sixes. I don't think any point here anyone's ever been close. So going further on that 8-year deal at $6 million, Elliotte Friedman's even discussing it. We know that that's not going to be the contract that is available. That's not the contract that we know is what's going to be signed. And frankly, ridiculous, as I mentioned. And really, just seeing the Bruins kind of stretch this out longer than they can, you know, offering these kind of contracts are really just a joke. There's no way Swayman's signing that, since he's discussed it publicly. Now, if we had not heard anything from Swayman and we're seeing these reports, maybe we'd have an idea that he was looking for somewhere around that 7-8 million mark, but it really just is to a point now where we're stuck in the middle. The Bruins aren't really seeming to extend that offer up higher than what we know, at least that was publicly released, but we're going to have to look at that Charlie McAvoy contract style that Swayman was also looking for, reporting by Elliotte Friedman. And as for this, reports from indicated that Swayman has asked for such as $10 million annually, but Friedman has also been told the contract signed the Bruins defenseman Charlie McAvoy is closer to what Swayman is looking for. So once again, for those who don't know, Charlie McAvoy's contract, 9.5 by 8 years, signed, I believe, in the 22-23 season. He's currently heading in his third year of that, but this is quite a contract that some of the top goalies are making right now. There's only two above $10 million, which is Carey Price and Sergei Bobrovsky, and then you kind of got that realm of the Connor Hellebuyck and Andrei Vasilevsky. Those are the two that are really making around that $9.59 million mark. And right now, I wouldn't say Swayman's there, but that's a contract that he will be around in his career, and I'd even say as early as next season. So looking at this could be the contract that they're going after. I think this is going to be the case. And really, that's what it should be after what we're seeing right now, the cap going up and the future of what the NHL cap space is going to look like. So let me know what you think. But before we move on to our next topic, we do have one more quote here from an anonymous NHL GM and say they have to sign him to a real term. So he has a lot of leverage here, which is discussing about Jeremy Swayman, obviously, with that 4 and 6 year offers. And that's the big thing here. Swayman has all the leverage. And even especially with offering him not 8 years, we need him. That's really the case here. We need him. We cannot afford to have Joonas Korpisalo, Brandon Bussi, Mikey DiPietro, whoever it is right now. We cannot afford to have those guys starting just yet. So Swayman really has the ball in his court, and he really has a lot to talk about here, and a lot to kind of provide to this team, and he knows that. But as I mentioned, let's move on to our second topic here, discussing really the worst case scenario, which is having Joonas Korpisalo start at the moment. And by no means is Joonas Korpisalo a bad goalie, especially what we had seen last year. That wasn't the Korpisalo that I know we can see. Last year in LA, he was quite good. Very, very good, actually, I should say, in 11 games. But that is 11 games. As you can see, they're right on the bottom. Those two are from last season as well as the Cleveland Monsters. But 11 games with the LA Kings, 213 goals against, and a .921 save percentage. And then, when you look at Ottawa, you have an .890 goals against and a .327 save percentage. A very big discrepancy there, but really goes to show what a good, solid team in front of you can do for a goalie's stats. The win-loss as well, you can look at that, but that's, once again, still has to do with the team for the most part. And having Joonas Korpisalo with Bob Cessna, having him on this team with a very, very solid defense in front of him, some very good defensive forwards, I think that we could see that Joonas Korpisalo we've seen in LA if he needs to start. I don't trust him to start right away, 50 games, 60 games, but that won't be the case. Swayman will be signed by then, whether it is, at the start of the season or not. I still see a lot of potential here for what we're going to have in the goaltending in Game 1 of the regular season. I do see a lot of potential from Game 82 of the regular season. They're in a good spot, but they just need to figure it out early, figure it out and have it done with, and then go their way and work out what they want to do with the goaltenders. But, like I said, let me know what you think about all of this news here. Obviously, it's not the news we're wanting to see from Jeremy Swayman, but that's really been a trend for this whole offseason so far up to this very point in time. Not very many more updates that are positive, but we still have to report on everything that comes out because that's all going to lead to that final contract extension that we do end up seeing. So let me know what you think about this news, like I mentioned, but I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.